You will hear evidence in this case of sudden, unexplained death. You will hear evidence that it is great.
I don't want to hide anything from you because if that could lead to finding my wife sooner, that's the most important thing. I wouldn't hurt my wife. I love my wife.
It is a huge day in the murder trial of Brian Walshe, the defense case beginning in less than an hour. So what could we expect to happen in Dedham, Massachusetts? And we've got new developments in the death of teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez. A grand jury now reportedly convening over the teen who was found dead inside of the trunk of singer David's Tesla. Plus, for the first time, Charlie Kirk's accused killer will be in court, appearing in person today. We're looking ahead to the hearing for defendant Tyler Robinson. And is Luigi Mangione a modern-day Robin Hood? The killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has gripped the nation, and so has the accused assassin. This is part of our 12-day spotlight of holiday crimes. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time of the morning where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So let's start it off as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. The cover-up is worse than the crime. And in the case of defendant Brian Walshe, the cover-up just may be the nail in his coffin. Why? Because think about it, my friends. If there wasn't a crime committed, there's nothing to cover up. No reasonable person would think that they need to cover up a natural death. If your spouse dies naturally, you're not responsible for their death because you didn't cause it. Even if you hated their guts because they were running around on you, those hateful feelings you have aren't a crime. You're not responsible. Now, in Anna Walsh's case, if she died naturally, as the defense says, hubby Brian, who owed nearly $500,000 in restitution for his federal fraud case, could collect on Anna's life insurance policies. Anna wouldn't need to disappear in order for him to collect that money. She wouldn't need to be cut up into pieces in order for him to collect that money. Her remains wouldn't need to be scattered around town in dumpsters in order for him to collect that money. And there would need to be no lies told whatsoever. Why? Because there is no crime. We know that Brian Walshe Googled how long for someone to be missing in order to inherit. We know that Anna wasn't really missing. We know that he knew she was dead. And if she died naturally, why isn't there a search on the kid's iPad about insurance payouts on natural death? Why isn't there any mention at all of natural death or sudden death in any of those Google searches? His Google searches are evidence of his cover-up. They also serve as evidence of his alleged commission of the crime of murder. Because there's no need for a cover-up if there was no crime. That's my opening statement on this Thursday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
There's no evidence that Regina Hicks was driving that vehicle. There's no evidence that Regina Hicks floated from the passenger seat, from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, which is what would have had to happen if she was going to commit suicide. But relatives will also tell you, when they saw her that day, she was not suicidal.
In Ohio, it is day 2 of the murder trial for defendant Paul Hicks. This guy is accused of murdering his wife, Regina, more than 20 years after her body was found inside of her car in a pond. Court's going to get underway at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. In New Hampshire, we've got the sentencing expected for defendant Dustin Duran this morning at 10 a.m. He was found guilty of murdering the mother of his children. And in Utah, we've got Charlie Kirk's accused assassin in court in person for the first time. This motion review hearing is going to get underway today at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk more about that case coming up later this morning in our show. Right now, though, let's turn to your top story this Thursday morning. The defense case beginning shortly in the murder trial for Brian Walshe. Will he take the stand? What do you think? Here's what we can expect. We know that the defense is going to be calling a medical expert who is supposed to be explaining how a person with no medical pre-existing conditions could just suddenly die. And also on the defense witness list, but unlikely to be called, is former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor. The Commonwealth rested its case on Wednesday after calling 48 witnesses. The final witness was Alyssa Kirby, Anna Walsh's best friend, and she got emotional on the stand.
Kirby, can you tell me what she was upset about?
She was primarily upset about her and Brian's relationship, about being so far away from the kids. She was upset having found out that the federal case was delayed, or she thought that the federal case was delayed by Brian, and that she just really wanted to be with her kids. Their marriage had been really strained for a long time, and she told me how upset she was and how frustrating that was, and how she was really at a breaking point.
Prosecutors claim that Brian Walshe murdered Anna after he learned about her affair. The defense claims that Anna just died suddenly in her bed and he just panicked and disposed of her body and lied about it to police. What do you think happened to Anna Walshe? Let's talk about this case. In particular, what's going to happen today? Could we see Brian Walshe getting up on the stand today? Let's bring in our legal eagles we have with us, high-profile attorneys Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Good morning to you, gentlemen. All right, so let's dig into this defense case. So let's start with how you fashioned it. If you're on this defense team, what kind of witnesses would you want to be presenting first, second, and last? Michael J. Brown, would you start us off with your thoughts, please?
Good morning, everybody. Julie, you can't top your opening statement, so yeah, you have to. You still have it. So what we have to remember is you have to defeat that whole argument the prosecution is making. So do I think the defendant is going to take the stand? I do. I think he's going to get up there. He's going to explain why he disposed of the bodies, and he's going to intertwine that with his psychiatric background. And I think that's going to be coupled with potentially some type of psychologist or psychiatrist that's going to explain why he acted the way he did when he saw his wife in bed, he claims, dead from natural causes. That's not a psychiatric defense. Let's remember that. It's simply because he's not accepting responsibility for the murder. Rather, it's just to explain why somebody acted the way they did, which is kind of counterintuitive. You find your wife dead from natural causes. You're not going to take her and cut her up. But that's a way to explain why this particular individual, with his psychiatric history and and background, acted the way he did.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense, Michael. So let's say that he is going to be testifying, right? John Phillips, tell me, where do you call him? Do you wait till the end?
Goodness gracious,
Good morning.
goodness gracious. Oh man, I guess you call him last. You know, I guess you build to him. I just look, when affairs happen, when cheating's happening, when you've got a couple that's tied to money, or in this case, a criminal case and restitution, and all this mistrust happens, and someone dies of natural causes, you don't destroy the evidence that would free you. That's what every juror sitting there is going to be like, okay, how are you going to get me over this burden? What of these 8 witnesses are you going to get me there? And are you really going to put Mr. Walshe up here to try to sell me that story? Because that ain't going to fly. So I guess you put him last, but I'm sitting here with, not to be flippant, but I'm sitting here with my popcorn bucket,
Oh, for sure.
waiting to see how they're going to do it.
Sure.
It's awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. No, I know we all recognize what an awful case. And we've been talking about Anna Walshe. We've been remembering her as a victim for quite some time leading up to the trial. Our hearts break for those kids. Yes, John, but you're right. This is going to be like a train wreck you just can't look away from. Let's look at a portion of the cross from one of the big witnesses yesterday. John, you brought up something interesting. You know, the prosecution's been leaning into the motive of her stepping out on their marriage. They brought in her lover as a witness. And then yesterday, the defense was making some insinuations with her former boss. Let's watch.
During those conversations and your observations, Anna told you that Brian wasn't the jealous type.
That's correct.
And at some point, while Anna was working for you, she confessed that she had a crush on you.
She said that, yeah, maybe.
I think you've already kind of said it, but Mr. Walsh was never jealous of your relationship with Anna.
I don't believe so.
Ooh, okay, that was a juicy moment from Wednesday. Michael, what did you think of what the defense was doing there, trying to say that she might have been, maybe, they were suggesting that maybe she had something going on with that witness, the boss.
Yeah, and I think it was a good play. And what they're trying to get out is that at the end of the day, the defendant is not jealous of the fact that she may have had these crushes or even affairs with these other individuals, because that's one of the biggest motives, coupled with the financial interest of this case. And if you can defeat the motive aspect, which is, well, she was having an affair and she wanted to break up the marriage, if you can do that, then you're not giving the jury any type of motive. And why would he kill his wife? And that's going to some extent, support his position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, Michael. John Phillips, tell me, when it comes time for him to explain his behavior, how do you think his defense team should go about that in owning the bad acts that we know he committed?
You know, you're seeing a preview of this in that they're trying to show him as not malicious and not jealous and somebody who just, panicked. And multiple things can be true. You could have a promiscuous wife, again, not to insult the victim, but somebody who had an affair or was pushed to an affair, felt like they needed love in another direction, right? And a guy that's like, all right, that's fine, but you still have the betrayal. You still have the hurt feelings, and him going to the Home Depot, which you see here, and buying the pieces, that would be associated with dismembering a body. I don't think you can separate and put him in this bucket that's like, he's not malicious, he's fine, he was okay with all of this. Oh, and also here's him shopping at Home Depot, buying things to dismember somebody that you loved. Like you can't have it both ways.
Right, John. I can't imagine what's in the mind of those jurors. And there was a moment caught on camera that had many of us talking, not the jury because they were out of the courtroom, but yesterday, it looked like he was talking to himself. There was the extended sidebar going on regarding the voir dire of that witness we just had the clip from, and here he looks like he's talking to himself, and he's got a paper there. Michael, do you think he's practicing his testimony?
I don't know, Julie. There is. Let's remember, there is that psychiatric history with this defendant. I mean, I think that's pretty well established. And remember, during the course of the prosecution, there were times when they had that hearing. We called a 7:30 hearing here in New York State, but they were discussing whether he's competent to help in his defense. So there are those psychiatric issues. So, yeah, I mean, the prosecution can suggest that he's preparing, and the defense would say there is some psychiatric history here that affects his ability to think and function in society.
Right. Great points, Michael and John. We'll leave it there for now. 8:45 a.m. They're supposed to be convening in the courtroom to start up the defense case. We're going to hit a break here on Opening Statements. Coming up next for you, here's what we've got.
I was such an internet kid. The internet is really what I claim as my home. Like, if you ask me where I'm from, I say the internet. Because I was just online every day, doing my schoolwork, making songs, making a video, being a YouTuber, content creator, posting TikToks, posting on Instagram. Like, that's really my neighborhood was Instagram, and the society was the internet. You know what I'm saying?
Singer David's manager reportedly questioned by a grand jury. So what does he know about Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death? That's coming up. Plus, a murder case that's captivating the nation's attention. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is gunned down in New York City. But all the focus has been on the accused assassin, Luigi Mangione. What's the fascination all about? We'll unpack that coming up. Welcome back. Singer David is trending again as an executive at his record label was reportedly questioned by a grand jury. This is according to reporting from TMZ. Robert Morgenroth, the general manager of Mogul Vision, testified on Monday, reportedly. Celeste Rivas Hernandez's decomposing body was found in a Tesla owned by David. Was she killed? That's a burning question. TMZ is reporting that Mr. Morgenroth testified that, after testifying that the LA County Deputy DA, Beth Silverman, was, quote, very pushy on why I didn't call police. Morgenroth then responded, quote, I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. Okay, the time frame here is unknown. At what time Mr. Morgenroth knew what, but we do know that Singer David was touring when Celeste's body was discovered in that Tesla that was left abandoned. We know the tour was called off then. David was cooperating, now he's not cooperating, and he's believed to be a suspect. So could this be a case of co-conspirators? That's a question. Was this young woman killed? If she was killed, did one person do it? Did multiple people do it? Or did she accidentally die? She was a minor. So was there a cover-up because a minor accidentally died here? Did multiple people cover it up? Let's dig into this with our very seasoned investigator guest. We have with us retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. He also is a co-host of the Gold Shields Show and retired NYPD Deputy Inspector, the author of Once a Cop, and the host of Corey's Corner, Corey Pegues. Good morning to you both. Wonderful to have you on this case. Wow. As you know, this is so puzzling because it seems to me that a couple scenarios could have happened here. Corey, let me start with the one that's been in my mind for, since this occurred. Could this have been an accidental drug overdose, then covered up because this is a minor child? I would love to know your thoughts on that, if you think that drugs could have been at play in this case in some way.
Well, good morning to you and Tom. First of all, we have to leave everything on the table at this point because we don't know. Could that be part of the scenario? Yeah, obviously, everything is open at this time, and Tom is a detective who did numerous investigations. He'll tell you we're leaving everything on the table at this time, but I'm still stuck on her being stuffed into this car for all of this time and no one knew about it. So we have to really start there. How did she get into this vehicle? If it was accidental or it was a homicide, someone has to pay.
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you go about getting an answer into how did she get in there? Detective Smith, let's hearken upon your many years of investigative work. Tell us, please, where you would start if you were assigned this case now.
Wow, that's a great question. And your opening statement, Julie, is it. That's why we never really heard what was going on with this case, because I don't think they know. And the more you go about it, the more evidence is going to come up with interviews, data breaches, with their phones and cell towers and all that. But where I would start was with the victim. And you start with the victim and going backwards and accounting for her whereabouts. You kind of know where the quote unquote suspect was at this time, but it's important to find out what the victim was doing, where she was, who she was with, who she was gathering with, who she was talking to on social media. All of that is going to play into maybe a timeline of when this murder or death occurred.
This is fascinating, Tom, to hear you talk about this. So essentially a follow-up, do you kind of profile the victim, so to speak, like really try to learn everything you can about her?
Absolutely. Every single thing, where she ate, who she hung out with, who she called, who she was texting, everything, all of that, like the inspector said, all of that plays into building a case and building kind of an MO of what happened in this, but you have to start somewhere. And it usually starts with the victim and their whereabouts and their actions.
This is really helpful, Tom. Thank you. We know that things were tense in that grand jury room, according to TMZ reporting. We know that it was apparently a very intense situation, and we know that at least one witness, according to TMZ's reporting, was uncooperative. So uncooperative, as a matter of fact, the idea was floated that she could possibly be arrested, or he could be, it's a she could be arrested. So prosecutors are considering a body attachment to ask the judge to force this female witness to testify for the grand jury. In Pennsylvania where I practice, it would be a material witness warrant, essentially is what it's called, where if somebody's unwilling to come in, you legally make them come in. The witness was a no-show, according to TMZ. It's unknown what this woman's connection is to the case. It's interesting to note that this woman is represented by the same attorney as that music label manager we were talking about, Robert Morgenroth. So that's David's manager, and he's represented by the same guy as this woman. All right. Let's talk about what other questions you both have with this investigation. Corey, I want to go back to you. What would you say is the biggest question you have right now after all these weeks have passed and we haven't heard a peep?
Well, the biggest question I have, even in the beginning of the case, is we need to get David into a room with detectives like Tom to drill down. Why was this body inside of his vehicle, and what did he know about the individual, the deceased? Because it was in his vehicle, and it was, I believe, a whole week after we found the body, he continued to talk. But we do know that there was a connection between the two. I believe that there were some pictures of them. We need to really drill down David to find out exactly what he knew, what was his connection with the young lady, and why didn't he leave the tour after finding out that a dead body is in his vehicle? That's baffling to me.
Right. Corey, you're exactly right. Tom, let's explore that more. So, yes, there's been a lot of speculation, as Corey noted, with pictures of the two of them that seem to be the two of them together, speculation that they may have been romantically involved. But we know she's a minor child. She's also a runaway. She repeatedly would run away from her home, and that became problematic, as we've learned at Court TV. So with David, Tom, has the ship sailed now that he's not talking? Initially he was helpful. Would you talk to us about the delicate process of not, scaring away somebody that you may like for a death investigation?
Yeah, it's very, it's touch and go, and it all depends on their right to have counsel. That's where it all hinges. But the one thing I want to say is I don't care as a detective where he was when the body was found. I want to know where he was when she was alive. That's the main part of this. Where he was when she was found, I don't care. And the inspector's right. The more questioning that is done on people of the know, or might be in that inner circle of where he was. Listen, every celebrity, everyone in the public eye has an inner circle of people that they trust, they depend on, and they go to when they're in trouble. That's what has to be broken. They have to get in that inner circle, maybe not the suspect, but who else is around him that may have information about this.
Oh, excellent points. Boy, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the excellent insights and for your service, Detective Tom Smith, Deputy Inspector Corey Pegues. Thank you kindly. We'll speak again soon. When we come back, we'll talk about the man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk. He's going to be in court today in person. This is not a virtual hearing. We'll tell you what we can expect in this motions hearing. Plus,
Innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty.
the support for Luigi Mangione can make you forget that he's accused of murdering a man just weeks before Christmas. We're discussing the parallels between Mangione, Robin Hood, and Jesse James. That's next on our 12 Days of Holiday Crimes. Welcome back. It's December 4th, 2024, and the Christmas season is settling in on the Big Apple. And then tragedy strikes. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is gunned down on a Manhattan sidewalk. 5 days later, police make an arrest.
Members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione. He is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare.
It feels good to get a guy like that off the street.
Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism.
Just released body camera footage shows Mangione's arrest at a Pennsylvania McDonald's, and it didn't take long for him to become a celebrity of sorts, with supporters, mostly women, attending his court hearings and strangers sending money to his commissary account. His GoFundMe raised more than $1 million before it was taken down. So what is it about this guy that's turned a murder case into such a circus? Let's talk about this with our guest. I want to welcome in John H. Richardson. He's the author of Luigi, The Making and the Meaning. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Julie. Nice to meet you.
Great to be with you as well. And so let's start with why you wrote this book, John.
Well, I'd been covering young people who were thinking about violence for a few years, and I did a piece for New York Magazine called Children of Ted, which was about people who follow Ted Kaczynski. And Luigi had left evidence that he had read. He had a book review that he put up of the Unabomber Manifesto, where he gave it 4 out of 5 stars. That intrigued me. I was wondering, why didn't he give it 5 stars? Why didn't he give it 2 stars? And did he fit into this group of young men, mostly men, who feel like, violence is the only option or an option? And I kind of feel he fits partly, but not completely. He's still kind of mysterious, what he was really thinking.
Right. I understand in your book that you say that this kind of affection hasn't been seen since Jesse James or Robin Hood. Tell us why you say
Robin Hood.
What's that?
I'd say Robin Hood because Jesse James was not that great a guy.
Yeah.
But the idea that somebody, some person from the people would rise up against the oppressors and share the food with the poor is a pretty ancient meme, and it goes back to the Middle Ages when people were losing their farms or losing access to public land and all of that, and they really started to rise up. And it sort of is tied into the American Revolution too. So it's a really old dream in a way that somebody would rob the rich and feed the poor. One of the mysterious things about this whole thing is that Ted Kaczynski is not a left-wing figure. Environmentalists and people who believe that all men are brothers, left-wingers tend to not, whatever the current propaganda is, tend to not do that much violence, at least in the modern era. But Luigi sort of is a in-between figure. He doesn't really seem to be left-wing or right-wing clearly at this point. There's, like I say, there's still an awful lot of things that are mysterious. As far as Kaczynski goes, though, he definitely, we didn't find out for 6 months, but he definitely rejected the idea of terrorism and said that he was a terrorist because he killed random people. So in Luigi's mind, he seems to have worked it out so that he was doing something kind of compassionate. I was struck in the evidence that he was worried about whether the McDonald's worker had been identified. He said it would be bad for them. people would be hating on them. So even at the moment of his arrest, he was sort of thinking, like, is this going to be a bad thing for people? It's kind of touching and weird, really.
Oh, it's very weird. It's bizarre. Speaking of weird, I have a clip for you. John, let's take a look at a little outburst from him. This is after he was arrested in Pennsylvania, going to the magistrate court.
Luigi, do it. And completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Okay. No doubt he's got tons and tons of support. Do you find it odd that Americans are showing this affection for him, even though he's accused of committing a cold-blooded murder?
Well, it's different, that's for sure. I mean, usually people do not get that kind of endorsement from the public. I do think that, things that happen online and in the media and in the public sphere are kind of abstract to people. I don't think there's a whole lot of people who would stand there and if somebody had a gun and was shooting a person who did nothing to them directly in the back, would they go, yeah, that's great thing? I don't think many people would do that. The defense of him is kind of defiant. It's like, are you going to shame us? Are you really going to shame us? And I was struck by some of the younger commentators. One of them said, really, you're accusing us of endorsing violence, and we're the school backpack generation? You CEOs should go get bulletproof backpacks. I mean, there's a kind of, and that to me is what that says is you guys are not taking care of business. We're being gunned down in our schools, and you're talking about something, and now you're all rised up in outrage because a CEO got killed. I mean, it's even a double, triple insult that you didn't get that upset when some kid got shot in school. So, it's to blame it on an individual when society is so violent itself. As I've said before, somehow the permission structures for violence got opened, rather than focusing on the individual, because this is a peculiar case in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of similar cases. Some of them are shooting up synagogues. Some of them are shooting up churches, governor's offices. So it's more like the door's been opened for these people.
Yeah, it's a larger problem. It raises a larger issue. We appreciate your insight on Luigi. Hopefully we will talk again. John H. Richardson, thank you so much. I want to show your book again to our audience at home. It's called Luigi, The Making and the Meaning. Coming up next here on Opening Statements.
I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out.
Charlie Kirk's accused assassin is appearing in court today in person. And we have a live look at the courtroom in Massachusetts. We're getting ready for the defense case in the murder trial of Brian Walshe.
Gunshots heard near the library at UVU. They're trying to lock the library down now, still gathering.
Maybe the CS building is just east of the library. He's wearing jeans, black shirt, black mask, long rifle.
We do have officers following the victim to Tiffin Otis Hospital.
418 copy. How many injured do we have?
Just one person.
The man accused in the assassination of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk is expected to appear in court today for the first time. This case is in Utah, and today's hearing is going to be focused on media access, including what media outlets are able to show inside of the courtroom when the trial commences. We know that defendant Tyler Robinson will be seen in civilian clothing at today's hearing. This after a recent ruling by the court.
The court finds that Mr. Robinson's right to the presumption of innocence outweighs the minimal inconvenience of permitting civilian attire, and Mr. Robinson shall be dressed as one who is presumed innocent. Accordingly, the defendant's request to appear in civilian clothing for all pretrial proceedings is granted. Defense counsel is directed to coordinate with the jail to ensure that this order is implemented, and the court further orders that if the clothing be provided 72 hours prior to any hearing.
But lawyers for the 22-year-old Utah man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk are expected to be in court today pushing to limit the media access in this high-profile trial. Of course, here at Court TV, you know we're big fans of cameras in the courtroom. So let's talk about the benefits of media access in this case for the American public. Let's bring back in attorney John Phillips, no stranger to high-profile cases. You've represented a lot of famous people, John. I don't think you ever met a camera you didn't like. We love you on television, and you understand what we do. Where you understand you're kind to the media, you make time for members of the media, you get it. Talk to us, please, about some of the benefits you've seen in being open in the courtroom and allowing for the public to see every moment of a trial like this.
I did a press conference this week. We filed a lawsuit on behalf of teachers who spoke political speech. Yes, it was related to Charlie Kirk, and were fired. And the court of public opinion is really important in cases, but more than that, in this particular case, transparency is super duper important. Our political leaders are weighing in on one side of politics or the other. The issue of free speech is all throughout this case, and a man tragically died. We cannot be killing people over speech, right? Remember this thing?
Yes.
Constitution,
Look at you
First
with your little
Amendment.
pocket Constitution. Yes. I have one too, my friend. Yes.
We've got to do better, and this is hopefully a case with these attorneys and these parties where justice can get it right and show that it's transparent. It's not full of conspiracy theorists or people that want to scream at each other. This is about Tyler Robinson's day in court, his admissions, and whether this was, as we expect, an assassination.
Right, John, right. We know that we've seen very high-profile trials happen in America where there's always a concern prior to trial, is the defendant going to get a trial? But yet we see them get a fair trial with lots of, you've seen it many times, and been a commentator many times on television when we're analyzing these cases. Are the defense concerns valid here when we have history that's shown us that the media doesn't hinder someone's right to a fair trial?
As a criminal defendant, you always want a group of jurors that know as little. And this is one of those judgment cases. The last segment you covered Luigi Mangione. And Mangione and Robinson, are in their minds, figures that took the law into their own hands, right? One healthcare, one political speech that they disagreed with. And in both cases, they become household names. I think Mangione is more of a household name now than Robinson. But as a defense lawyer, you certainly want to find jurors that are a blank slate. And if not, maybe some that tip towards you. And in this case, the more coverage, particularly in Utah, right, where the jurors are coming from, the more you worry, am I going to be able to find a juror? But guess what? They did in Trump's case. They did in Diddy's case. They did in, OJ's case. These are bigger names in the scheme of things with bigger reported cases, and ultimately justice gets it right.
Great points, John. Great points. Thank you. Michael J. Brown joining us now. I want to take a look together at some of his defense team's concerns about how he may be viewed. So in their motion where they were asking for him to wear the street clothing, they also said, quote, in part, With each development in the case generating thousands of articles and comments online, the likelihood of potential jurors seeing and drawing conclusions regarding Mr. Robinson's guilt and/or deserved punishment from obvious sign of pretrial incarceration will only increase. The repeated and ubiquitous display of Mr. Robinson in jail garb, shackles, and a suicide vest will undoubtedly be viewed by prospective jurors and will inevitably lead to prospective juror perception that he's guilty and deserving of death. Well, we know the court has corrected the issue with the clothing, so there's no concern anymore with that. Michael, you, like John, also embrace the media. You guys are, friends of the media, and you know what it's like to have a high-profile case. You've got one right now, the Gilgo Beach homicide case representing Rex Heuermann, and you've embraced it. You've talked to the cameras about what you can say. We know there are things you just can't. Tell me, what are some of the benefits to having media interest in a case?
Well, Julie, you got to remember, in a lot of cases, the media keeps everybody honest. So having a public jury trial, for instance, is phenomenal, but you're limited to the 50, 100, 150 people in the courtroom. When the founders talked about a public jury trial, we didn't have television, but the ability to broadcast it to people who are interested in it, actually, that's your station is based on that, and I think that's what is important, and it's a public jury trial. So for defense attorneys, well, number one, it keeps everybody honest and on their toes, and also, you have a prosecution who spins the case a certain way. It gives us the opportunity to counteract that and get our position across to the media, so that we can also set forth where we're going and our beliefs and our position. So it's important.
Yeah, really excellent points you made, Michael, and thank you for that. And in broadcasting the trial, you both have done so much great analysis for us on so many cases. To your point, Michael, people at home get to form their own opinions, right? They don't need anyone to tell them what happened. As you said, Michael, they can watch it for themselves, and the jury will not be watching it because they're not allowed to watch it. They have to watch in person. We'll leave it there for now. Of course, we're going to be following the hearing this afternoon. We'll have coverage of it and report any decisions that are made regarding. John, I know, I can't reach it, but it's in my bag on the floor behind me. I know, I take it with me. Everybody should have a pocket constitution, Michael. John and I were talking about that earlier. We always have to take. You
John,
probably
send
have
me
one.
a copy, please.
He will. Oh, well, you guys are the best. Thank you so much, Michael J. Brown, John Phillips. Appreciate you. We'll see you soon. That's it for opening statements. Court TV Live is next. We'll go to Massachusetts to watch Brian Walshe's trial. But before we do that, as we head to break, we want to remember the victim in this case, political activist Charlie Kirk. He leaves behind his beautiful wife, Erica, and his beautiful young children. We send them our love and good wishes as they continue healing.